Yeah.
Up
By the water tower, Avon, people from church, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've got 3 or 4 lots approved back there now. They're in the 3rd or 4th. So yeah, the Quintalones are back there.
And then there's 2 houses with behind them.
Oh,
They're
this is
someone
back there.
else.
Okay, yeah, they're right on the circle. They were like the 2nd house, or no, 1st house.
First house.
Yeah.
You have the one on the immediate left was the second.
Yep.
We live there, you know, siding, the windows, the black.
Yeah.
Think about the way the siding kind of goes this way.
Ford and Batten, yeah, great family. I think I'll live. I'll pass this around there because I don't know if it's confirmed. So it's great.
Are they young couple?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and they're blended.
Keep that,
They do keep up on the technology.
keep that new playground in good use.
Probably gonna do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy that they're there. I wasn't. He's had a lot of problems getting that up and
I have
going.
no idea. Actually,
That was heading,
that
first
your
house,
house?
it's his first
This one
time.
here? I know, that's Heather's.
Building permits and all that stuff's new to him and. Heading
A lot of stuff.
on that Southern View subdivision, I think it's.
Yeah, it's 4 copies of all the applications.
Oh, okay.
Not literal, like
All the way.
field, but it's directly behind me.
No, we don't. We do it for Craig's. Craig's a paper hoarder.
Did Luke,
Chris mentioned.
I had a piece of paper
Yep,
today at
it's on my
the
list.
engineering meeting. I let it right over to him at the end of the meeting. I'm all set.
I kept it.
Luke, are we good?
We're all set, yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this workshop meeting of the Town of Henrietta Planning Board on Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. Members present, Matt Borkowski, Patricia Brill, Craig Eckert, Walter Liss, Marcy Reynolds, Millie Safranek, and Donald Young, Planning Board Attorney. Town staff present are Chris Martin, Director of Planning and Engineering and Planning, and Luke Bushin, Assistant Director of Engineering and Planning. At this point, I will invite people to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I want to make an announcement. If anybody is here for the public hearing on the Erie Ridge subdivision, I apologize, but we have postponed that. There was some information change that we did not have enough time to get out, so we will not be having that public hearing this evening. It will be next month on May 21st it was? Thank you. So if anybody's online and was waiting for that, or anybody in the room here, again, next month on May 21st. Okay, we'll begin tonight with a discussion item at South Ridge Landing, and the planning board will discuss approving a second 6-month extension for application number 22-019 that was originally approved on November 15th, 2022, with a 6-month extension that was granted on November 14th, 2023. Now, this project was to be located at 2520 East Henrietta Road in a commercial B2 zoned district. Pretty simple item here, I think. Chris, is this the subdivision that was going to go down behind CVS, correct?
Yeah, I mean, not so much the subdivision,
Or
but it's a
that, the apartment,
multifamily,
yes,
it's a
the apartment.
multifamily residence. That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah, they just got their funding or in the process of getting their funding. So, they may start hopefully in the next 6 months.
thank you. And for Heather's edification, is your microphone on?
It is,
You're
yes.
good?
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
very
Yeah, I
good.
don't want Heather to get mad at me again,
Yes.
so it is on.
Yep. And for everybody here tonight, we had some AV issues last time. I just want to make sure that if you are speaking at the podium and have to wander a little bit, feel free to grab one of the hand mics there. We can turn that on and you can hold it the whole time you're up there. But especially if you tend to wander away from the stationary microphone there, we just want to make sure that the recording gets back to the appropriate people and they can transcribe this meeting properly.
And make sure everyone is signed in.
Thank you, Patty. Yep. So I know, who is here representing South Ridge Landings? Anybody online with that? Was there somebody that's going to be?
There may not, Jim.
Oh,
Sometimes.
he might have said we could
Chairman-
call him if we needed to. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So
sometimes
anyway,
these-
we know where it is. Does anybody on the board have a question regarding this at all or concern?
How many extensions are we allowed? Is it?
I think you can do
Mr.
6
Young, I
months
think-
for an unextended period of time if I'm
correct, Mr. Cutler?
I don't know offhand the limitation of the number of.
Okay,
extensions.
I just didn't know if we were coming close to some sort of limitation. We can
Yeah,
figure that out
no.
if it comes to that point.
Yeah, they are all set to roll on this. They just aren't going to make it by the deadline that they had. So I think that,
Isn't the Cornerstone Development going to be the manager of the Southbridge Landing? That's what I heard.
That I'm not 100% sure of. I don't think they were the original groups
No, they were
involved.
not. But they were in, like not in partner, and maybe in partnership with that,
Yeah.
that out-of-state developer.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I just haven't heard that yet.
But anyhow, that would be a positive.
Sure, they've
Yeah.
done a lot of work in Henrietta and they've
Yes,
done
they
a great
did.
job. So absolutely.
okay, and I apologize. Let me step in again too. I forgot to get the minutes from the last meeting on March 19th, 2024. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve or a motion regarding the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, we have approved minutes from last month. Thank you very much. Okay, so now on to our discussion item. Now the chair will entertain a motion to approve a second extension for Southbridge Landing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the extension.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair of the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is application number 24-004. This is Starbucks for final site plan approval of a 2,400 square foot restaurant located at 1012 Lehigh Station Road on approximately 0.97 acres in an industrial zone district. Who's here representing the applicant, please?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
This is Matt Tomlinson with Marathon Engineering. Appreciate the board considering this project tonight. Joining me on Zoom is John Bartolotti, who is the architect for the project. And then they're present with you in the room as Rafael Barreto from my office, as well as Matt Bucci representing the ownership. As you mentioned, we are proposing a Starbucks here on a parcel of land that was originally contemplated for a different fast food user at 1012 Lehigh Station. On the screen in front of you, Lehigh Station Road is to the south, Kenneth Drive, where the driveway accessing the development is located to the west, and the off-ramp for 390 to the east. Consistent with kind of the previous approvals that I believe this board has seen, we're proposing a fast food use using the access drives, utilities, and other infrastructure improvements that were done as part of the Taco Bell, which is located immediately to this parcel's west. We're just under an acre in size. We're compliant with all of the zoning regs, with the exception of the rear setback that the planning board has the ability to waive if there's no loading, which I'll talk about in a minute. We did appear before the town board a couple of weeks ago in order to obtain a special use permit, which the town board did grant for us. So we've kind of got things teed up relative to the approvals outside of this board. Rafael from my office also appeared at the conservation board meeting and had some good discussion about materials, plantings, number of trees, and some visibility items. We are confident that we can comply with. And we've also received engineering comments from Mr. Martin and have drafted some responses to those relative to it, and mostly technical in nature, don't have any issue foreseen in addressing those if the board is willing to consider a conditional approval. Relative to the site specifics itself, 2 access points to the site to the existing drive aisles, as I mentioned, one on the north for full access and one to the south of the proposed building that gives immediacy entry, if you will, into the drive-through stacking. We can queue about 16 or 17 vehicles within that drive-through queue before it backs into the parking lot. Starbucks standard is 13 vehicles, so we're confident that we have sufficient queuing there. We have an egress lane or a bypass lane, if you will, for the second half running to the north where vehicles can exit if there's a problem or a breakdown or something of that nature within the drive-through itself for folks that want to get back out to Kenneth Drive. We are not proposing any new access points to Lehigh Station Road. As I mentioned, utilities have been stubbed onto the site in preparation for this lot's development. Landscaping and lighting levels are consistent with the Taco Bell design for height and look, specific to the lighting. And the couple of site items that I wanted to talk about or bring to the board's attention, this Starbucks has a new prototype, if you will, with some of the outdoor seating arrangements. Most of the time, those are right outside the front door or kind of within the parking lot proper. Here, that seating is on a covered patio area immediately to the south of the building and more proximate for easy access or entry from the majority of the parking field. And they feel that that will activate and make sure that a front look is oriented towards Lehigh Station Road. We are in a little bit of a odd situation with this site in that we really have a four-sided site. We've got Kenneth Drive, obviously, with an access point being where vehicular drivers are focused. Great visibility from the off-ramp in Lehigh Station Road, even without access. So we've got frontages there. And then I believe this board is aware or has recently approved or seen a proposed hotel immediately to our north on some of the remaining lands of this overall development where the drive-through is oriented to. So we've really tried to, with the limited space that we have on the site, ensure that we've got adequate landscaping, thoughtful design that John's put together, and we'll talk about in a little bit relative to the facades and treatment. One of the things that causes some issues is, okay, where's the back of house? Where do mechanicals go? Where does the dumpster go, et cetera? So mechanicals will be on the roof. Those will be screened, and John can talk to that a little bit. The dumpster itself, especially with the vehicle turning movements, are a challenge. And so what we're proposing is the dumpster located within the dead end parking area backing to the drive-through. We're screening that with landscaping as well as an enclosure that matches the building materials. And we've got a couple representative visuals from the Lehigh Station roadside that maybe we can scroll through while I'm talking through this. We're also proposing to build that dumpster enclosure at 5.5 feet high with 4-yard dumpsters inside of it, which are 5 feet high, which is a little shorter than some of the larger dumpsters that you typically see on a commercial, because we feel that this is the least obtrusive location and we're able to screen it as best as possible relative to the views from the external portions of the site. With that, I'd like to just turn it over to John real quick to talk about the building and materials. And I believe Raphael has a box of some of the materials for the brick and wood cladding pieces for the board's consideration as well.
We've got those. Thank you very much for bringing those.
Great. John, you want to talk about the building material a little bit?
Sure. It's organized pretty simply. There's a brick and a wood on the facade. As you're looking at this elevation, the higher level is all brick and it wraps down on the lower left side, as you can see it by the Starbucks sign. It's all one color brick, and then we just have a different orientation of the coursing. One is stack bond and one is oriented vertically. So on our drawings, you'll see brick 1 and brick 2, but it's all one color. And it's the light color, which I think you have a sample called Manhattan Smooth, should be there. And that is the brick that's all around the building. There's also a wood. There's 2 colors. The majority of the wood around the building is the color, it's a lighter brown, and it's called Weka, W-E-K-A. And that's what you're looking at right there underneath the canopies, as you're seeing it right there. On the facade, either side of the glass. That's right. Yep. And if you kind of go to the next one, I can kind of walk you through that as well, just so you can understand the colors and stuff. Same brick right there, same wood underneath the canopy. And as you go around the next 2 elevations, it's the same brick. And on the drive-through side, which would be the following one. Keep going, I think, right through. One more. Oh, we don't have that view on this one. It'd be on the other side, the other elevation. So this was really to illustrate what Presences looks and what's the screening like and what's the landscaping approach. You can see in the lower right corner, we've got an arrow showing from site what you're looking at, which corner. This is really from the 390 side corner of Lehigh Station. And the dumpsters are behind the car. There's a, or behind the green evergreen shrubs. They're also clad with the brick to match the building. So they are pretty indescript. You really don't see them. It's kind of blends into part of the building. And I think if you back up one before this, one photo. This is from the opposite direction. You can see again the green evergreens there, and the dumpsters are behind there. They have enclosures in front, which is a colored to match. It's a swing gate, which has solid wood slats on it that matches the same color as the brick. If I understand it from the last meeting, there were some concerns on what this would look like on this elevation. I think we've kind of tried our best to make this blend in with the building, keep it a low profile because it's a very small dumpster, so not the size that you would normally see. And I think we've kind of tucked it in a corner. Matt's done a really good job on site design to kind of get a spot where it's functional, but yet remote enough to not obscure the vision of the building and not be standing out from a presence from the street.
Great, thanks, John. With that, we'd like to turn it over to the board to ask any questions that we might be able to answer, and we'd be happy to.
Thank you. I really like the aesthetics on this project. Did you say this is a new prototype building for Starbucks?
It's a similar building, but newer color palette and design features for the facade. So it's slightly different than recent built ones. I'm not sure exactly the date that these came in, but I know they're relatively recent in the last couple of months.
You've got one up at the corner of East Henrietta and Calkins Roads, and this one to me is much more attractive than that building that's up there. So I like this a lot. Thank you.
In the elevation right there that you can see on the far left side is the dark colored wood. That's the other sample that we have, which is called Unagi, I think. And we got it called as WD2. Yep. That's the only spot that dark wood shows up.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Okay. At this point, the chair will open it up to the board, and we'll start with Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Couple questions real quick. I guess maybe I'm disoriented, but the plans on the architectural elevation don't appear to match what we're looking at with these new isometrics. Is the drive-through pickup window is on the north side, right?
It is. That's correct.
Yep.
But
There's
this
a
slide
small
shows it on the east side.
There's a small canopy over the egress door there for employees taking trash out and that
I
kind
got
of
it.
thing.
That's not a drive-up window.
That's a service.
Okay.
I was okay. So I apologize. So that was my orientation issue. That looked like a drive-up window cover. Okay. So we'll just going back to some of that facade. I think it was a comment from the Conservation Board, maybe to dress up that east side. I know that you do have, again, 4 visible sides here, but the back of your, in a sense, the back end of your restaurant faces a very busy 390 off ramp. So I don't know if that can be facaded to maybe look a little bit more storefront with some windows or something.
Yeah, great question, Craig. The Conservation Board had our straight on elevations, but not these perspectives. We didn't have these done in time to get to the Conservation Board. There are some wall sconces with some lights on there. The canopy itself is intended to help dress that up a little bit. Because this is the back wall where all the kitchen equipment and everything else is, I'm not sure that we can add too much more. Although I do know that the owner intends pursuing approval for a sign on that side because of the visibility that may help to add some interest or at least draw the eye away from the utilitarian portions of the facade that we have to include.
Yeah, the only thing I would maybe take a look at is, in a sense, a faux window. We did something very similar to Floor and Decor facing Highland Drive. They're not functioning. They just look like a window, make it look a little more of a storefront, but they're not. They don't operate in any kind of manner.
And also along McDonald's on West Henrietta
McDonald's,
Road.
West Henrietta, yeah, so just maybe take a look at some of that, if it matches your architectural scheme as another potential, or Panera too, I think too, right? So, is maybe dressing up that side that might help it be a little more visual for you, okay?
Okay, we can take a look at that.
Great. Going back to my comments I have here, yeah, so you mentioned the dumpster enclosure. I like it. I know we're acquiescing to a 5-foot enclosure to not, so it doesn't block the front entrance.
Mhm.
And I think you did again confirm that the dumpster in there will be lower than the 5-foot enclosure, right?
Correct. And just to clarify, the enclosure will be 5'6" because the dumpster is 5 feet high. So we're gonna go 6
Going
inches.
to 5'6"?
Yep.
Okay. Good. That probably works. I know we usually go to an 8-foot board, but that was gonna cover the whole front end of this, we thought. So we are taking a look at some of that going forward with maybe some alternate height changes. One of the other comments I had was really kind of internal. Did we take dedication to the sewer yet from Taco Bell?
No, I believe it's already to take
Microphone,
dedication. which-
Microphone, don't let Heather yell at you, or I will. No,
Thank you, Mr. Eckert.
you're welcome.
So yes, we haven't taken dedication yet, but we plan to at the May.
At the May meeting. Okay,
Meeting,
so that's just paperwork on our end to make sure that tying in and everything works well for you. One other question that I had was based off of lighting. I see a 25-foot pole here. I couldn't tell, looking up from the plans that were approved for Taco Bell, the height that was approved there. I'd like to see if it would be similar, but I can't tell if 25 was approved or not. And then the second question that goes on this, something that I've been asking for going forward, are comm checks on lighting. So if we can get a comm check, which is an electrical code compliance anyway, get a copy that it meets the comm check.
Okay, yeah, that typically we would have something like that accompanying the building permit, Craig, but we could definitely advance that if needed. These are LED lights and no issue. I don't anticipate meeting that. The 25 feet is higher than we would typically do, and I believe we selected those specifically to match the Taco Bell plans that I believe we got a copy of the original plans from the town. We will verify, but the intent is to match the height of the Taco Bell so that it doesn't look like a completely separate project.
And that's fine. So yeah, matching is fine. I just didn't want them taller. You're welcome to go lower if that helps your ambiance and helps your light spread a little bit better. I'm not opposed to lower. The comm check can come in with a building permit. There's no need to, I guess, advance that as long as, again, it gets brought in with the building permit. We just make sure we catch up with that later.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
That is, yeah, those are the end of the comments that I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Eckert. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a couple of housekeeping questions for me. Raphael, last name Barrett? Barrett? I'm sorry? Oh, Barrett. Oh. Couldn't read your handwriting, forgive me. And John, online, if you would kindly spell your last name for me and your
Sure.
company?
Yep. The company name is Delpos, capital DAL, capital POS Architects. And my name is John Bartolotti, and that's BARTOLOTTI.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, all of my questions were answered by the applicant and additional questions by my counterpart. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thanks for touching on the vehicle stacking. That's good. And that they have mode of egress. That was a big one. Did we talk about HVAC? I was kind of reading along the enclosed stuff. Okay. And we need to talk about a variance for the rear setback. One thing, I know you talked about the covered patio, and I see that on both sides of that patio, you have about 7 feet of sidewalk from where the cars will park. Is there going to be anything that's a extra barrier if a car jumps a curb or anything? Like a wrought iron fence or something like that?
Yeah, I believe there's a low fence shown there, but Starbucks does have some patio enclosure requirements that attach to the columns supporting that so that we will be in compliance with their brand standards and provide that barrier.
Great. So you're saying that the beams they act as like a bollard?
Well, the columns are there, but there's fencing between the columns for that kind of separation or delineation.
Okay. I'm just talking about something that's strong enough to, if a car does jump a curb, we're okay.
John, I'm not aware of any special protections that are on those columns.
I do not either. I don't believe they're intended to retain a vehicle.
So
Chris, have we ever
on the-
like, made anybody do anything structurally sound? It's basically been a,
Yeah, no, typically, with the outside patios, we just make them put some type of fencing around there, just as you said, to prevent kids from running out. into traffic.
okay.
And the curb is there to stop the
6
vehicles, obviously.
and we will have full depth curve through both of those sections.
Yeah, and I can see that on the
Correct.
elevation, so that's cool. All right, thank you, that's good. I guess we can wait a bit. We just gotta make sure that we do something about the variance on the setback.
Yep.
And that's all I have, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I think all my questions have been answered. When I look at where the dumpster is in the future, when it's trash day, it looks like it's gonna be a little tight for the vehicle to back in there and get those dumpsters out of there, especially if it's a busy time. So that's my only concern.
Yeah. Typically for all the commercial locations, the landlord coordinates pickup times for off-peak times just to alleviate those issues.
Correct, right.
Very good. Thank you. Look forward to having a cup of coffee there. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Chair will recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So if I'm looking at the traffic patterns, there's two ways to get into the drive-through portion. Is that correct? On the west side and the north side?
Both of those drive lanes, if we could switch back to the
I just,
colored rendering. Yep. Both of those drive lanes are two-way drive lanes on the north side and the west side.
Okay.
With a single entry point proceeding to the south from where the cursor is into the drive-through. That's correct. So that's where the clearance bar would be located, right at the start of that concrete paving area.
gotcha. And thank you. And the sidewalk that goes across the drive-through out to the sidewalk on the south along Lehigh Station, and is there going to be any type of safety barriers or I don't know why there might be foot traffic coming across there because there's not really anything across the street, I don't believe, other than some businesses. So what type of safety precautions would be in place?
We are showing a striped crosswalk there and could entertain a pedestrian crossing sign there as well. We do not anticipate a lot of pedestrian traffic, but I know accommodations were made for pedestrian circulation internal to the development and out to the public right of ways so we are also including connection to the driveway that comes in along the drive along Kenneth Drive, to the sidewalk and crosswalk there for folks that are walking from adjacent businesses or along either Lehigh Station or Kenneth.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Chair will recognize Ms. Safranek.
Good evening. I think most of my questions have been answered. I do appreciate the thought that has gone into the landscaping and the design. I think that's going to be a nice addition. I guess just a minor question is just where is the snow storage going to be for snow removal? Is that going to be on the north side?
Primarily, snow storage will be within the green landscape islands to the south side of the parking and surrounding the drive-through along the south edge. We're pretty constrained. I'll call it in the east, west, and northern portions.
So it's going to go up onto the green space there
Correct.
in the drive-through area?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All set?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to reiterate, gentlemen, I did hear you say correct that you're able to comply with all the comments from the town engineer, the fire marshal, And you're comfortable with the conservation boards as well, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We still need to connect with the fire marshal related to his comment on hydrant, but once we resolve that, we don't have an issue addressing it. We just want to get some clarity on the request. But we
Okay.
have no issue with the remaining comments that we've received.
Okay, very good. So we can address the rear yard depth setback. Does anyone on the board have a comment or concern with granting that request? Thank you. Okay.
It's a commercial road. Gonna be a commercial building.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to grant that request.
Motion for the variance. I don't have the actual numbers, but let's do that.
004.
No, not for that, for the setback distance. To reduce the rear setback from 60 feet to 39 feet.
Very good. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, we have a setback reduction. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Martin, any final comments on the application itself?
Just seeker, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Young, did you have any comments at this point?
Nothing beyond my written comments, Chairman.
I'm sorry?
Nothing beyond my written comments.
Thank you. Okay. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7 C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by the 1012 Lehigh LLC. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a 2,400 square foot restaurant located at 1012 Lehigh Station Road on approximately 0.97 acres in an industrial zone district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It's been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. So I, James Brunert, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Depending on the chair, the ayes have it. Motion carries. We have seeker. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to on application number 24004, Starbucks for final site plan approval.
Thank you, Mr. List. Just check. One question, Mr. Young, you've got a note on your notes here that that a special use permit from the town board is required.
Yes, it has already been, I'm sorry.
It's,
Don, go ahead.
that's okay.
Yeah, it was, they applied for that. I understand that it was recently granted though, is that right?
Right,
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I believe at the March meeting, one of the March meetings.
Okay. So, Mr. List, we've got your motion. Thank you very much. Do I have a second, please?
Can we, what about zoning?
Pardon me?
One of Mr. Young's comments also, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
didn't mean
that's
to
fine.
interrupt you, but zoning board of appeals, is there a requirement? Oh, different one. Oh, okay. I'm looking at, oop,
Yeah, nothing on that.
okay.
Yeah.
No, my apologies, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
I'm
very
looking
good.
at the wrong comments. Yep, thank you.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Eckert?
Yep.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to the finished project.
Great.
And Chairman, for clarification, that was a motion condition on satisfying all the comments the board was discussing, correct?
Well, I think they had acknowledged all those. I think, Mr. Young, that's my impression that they were all comfortable with everyone's comments. So,
With addressing them, right?
yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yep. All right. Next item on the agenda this evening is application number 24-001 Market Square Retail Building Addition. This is for for site plan approval of an 8,600 square foot building addition located at 790 Jefferson Road in a commercial B1 zone district. This project originally was approved as application number 18-011 on October 9th, 2018, and was reapproved on September 20th, 2022. However, construction never commenced and approvals had therefore expired. We did table this application on February 20th, pending some discussion between the applicant and the fire marshal. And Matt, welcome back.
Good evening, Chairman, members
Good
of
to
the
see you
board.
again.
So since the last meeting, we did meet with members of the town, the fire marshal as well. What we were able to do is expand driveway by 3 feet on the side to go from the 12 that was previously shown to 15, and then also increase turning radius coming in as well. And then we also showed the truck turning movements for the fire truck. Based on that, the fire marshal issued an updated comment letter stating he was at this point okay with the project. I believe that was the only outstanding comment. We didn't have any issues with any of the other town comments that were issued last time. I don't believe there were any other outstanding comments from the board as well.
No, I think you're exactly right. I did see the fire marshal's comments. He's good. And I want to thank you for your patience throughout this whole
Absolutely.
project. It's much appreciated. So I will open it up to the board just to make sure there's no comments or concerns. The chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, we've seen this a couple times. I am comfortable with the redesign and communicated, and I don't have any other further comments.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Brill.
Same. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you. Mr. Borkowski.
No comment.
Thank you. Mr. Liss.
I'm all set, Mr.
Here,
Chairman.
Mrs. Reynolds.
I'm all set as well. Thank you.
Very good. And Mr.
Chairman.
Franek.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Town staff, Mr. Martin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Young, let me double check here.
Yeah, just my written comments, I would say, for when there's unaddressed comments of town officials, that your approval should be expressly conditioned on meeting those, satisfying those comments.
Okay. Very good. Well, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the application for Market Square addition. Conditional on the meeting requirements, comments from town staff.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Reynolds, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Depending on the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Matt, congratulations.
Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Matt, while I have you, want to give a big thumbs up to Dan Ognebeen running your 1300 Jefferson Road project. Very communicative and effective, so it's been great. Thank you.
Really appreciate
Keep them busy.
Either.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, application number PB 332.2, the Fairways at Riverton, Section 2. This is for final subdivision approval of a 31 lot residential subdivision on 40.8 acres located on Erie Station Road, a planned, unit development. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening.
Thought that was number 2. Is that 3?
That was 3. Yes, we,
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. All right.
so welcome, gentlemen. I'll let you introduce yourselves and the floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm Walt Baker with DSB Engineers and Architects. With me tonight is Richard Battisti. He's the president of Favor Homes. And also with us is Jared Hurt, counsel for Forest Creek Equity Corporation. So we are here tonight for final approval for what's referred to as phase 2 and 3 of the fairways at Riverton. As the board will recall, this project reviewed and received special use permit from the town board back in 2022. And then subsequent to that, we came to the planning board for preliminary approval and also final approval for phase 1. And as you well know, phase 1 is under construction right now. It's 28 lots for that section, and the sales are going really well. And of the 28 lots, we've got like 26 of them committed, so we only 22 committed. We got like 6 lots left to go.
They're going up like crazy. I'm in and out. I live off Countess Drive there,
Yeah.
so I'm seeing these things every day. It's
Right.
amazing.
Things are going well now. We obviously we had to get New York State DOT, permit, highway permits. Sewer had to be put in and all that along the road. So once we got started and actually moved on to the site, we started the house construction as soon as possible. And tomorrow we're actually meeting with RG&E, and they're gonna lay out for the electric and gas and the other cable, and I think they're putting green light in as well. So things are moving pretty good, to the point where Bernie said, why don't we go back to the planning board and request phase, because we did 28 lots, so we're actually asking for approval for phase 2, which is 31 lots, and phase 3, which is 26 lots. I'm sure the chairman recalls, he's been around quite a while. But Bernie and Forest Creek Equity, we used to do sections that were larger prior to the COVID and everything else. Our sections used to always be 60 or 80 lots at a time. And then with the economy and everything else going on, he wanted to cut it back. So we did our first section with 28. So now things seem to be moving along, and he wants to get phase 2 and 3 approved, and we'll probably move right into phase 2, and we'll see how fast things go. We'll just transition right into phase 3. So we did
You guys moving forward, if you could just make sure you're talking into the mic a little bit so you can hear yourself in the speakers, because we weren't getting everything on recording last time, so just a little bit. Thanks.
Okay. As you well know, we did receive comments from the town and the county. And I've got Chris's comments here. I'd like to go through a few. A lot of them are technical in nature that we always address with Chris and the town staff. But if you're looking at the one for section 2, his comments, obviously seeker negative declaration was for the whole project, so everything's good there. When you get to number 2, the conditions indicate that the special use permit 2021-034 shall be adhered to. These conditions shall also be reviewed with the planning board and reiterated in the planning board decision letter. I did bring copies of the town board resolution, which has the conditions. I don't know if you have them handy, or would you like them?
Sure.
Thank you.
Conditions are on page
Thank
2.
you.
Town board resolution.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Sure, why not?
You can share.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Walt.
Thank you. So as a condition of the town board or the town board resolution for special use permit, they've included the conditions on page 2. And again, Chris noted that it needed to be reviewed and reiterated by the planning board. So number 1, this project is being developed in accordance with the plan submitted for the application for special use permit, and subject to change results, the site plan approval at the town Henrietta Planning Board, so long as those changes do not contradict the conditions herein. So don't know what that could be, but the town board, again, they went through everything, and we went through preliminary overall approval and also final for phase 1. And number 2 was subject to attaining all approvals required of the planning board. Well, generally, planning board makes a condition that we have to have all the outside agencies. Monroe County Health Department, Monroe County Water Authority, Pure Waters is included, and we always adhere to that. It's part of the sequencing in order to get the map signed. In order to mitigate traffic issues on East Henrietta Corridor, that this was a big one, that they have the East River Road Corridor seeker mitigation fee, which I think you're paying that every time, right? Every time you get a building permit, don't you pay? Yeah, so that we adhere to that. There's 130 lots in the whole project. So as we do each phase, and they obtain building permits,
Yep.
they pay the fee to the town for that. So, duly completing real property transactions subject to future town board approval related to the certain strip of town-owned land illustrated to access the Riverton Golf Course. That's the strip of land that everybody's familiar with. We Forest Creek Equity dealt with the town board, and we actually gave them a 15-foot strip of land along the entire project that they're going to be using for a trail to get to the Genesee River all the way from the southern end to the northern end. So each section we do that, we do the land transfer for that.
Great.
And the developer will create new sidewalks at the developer's sole cost. Okay. Yeah, at the southern point of the project, intersection of the property and all the way on Scottsville Road. We did do that. It's shown on the phase 2 plan as well. So we will adhere to that, of course. And that were the 5 comments or conditions of approval from the town board. Seeker mitigation fees. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of technical comments here, but if you move down to, I think it's comment number under general. He's got general number 17. It appears that a 50-foot transition buffer may be required for this project. If you recall, what we had was, because it's, when I talked to Chris, again, the golf course is considered part of the park district. And with that, the town code set a 50-foot buffer to the park district. However, that's been reviewed at the preliminary and also with final with phase 1, and it was reduced to 30-foot, which is the rear setback distance for the homes. And we adhered to that on phase 1. And obviously we'll continue with adhering it in all the future sections, which will affect phase 2, not phase 3, but phase 4 when we get up that far. It goes all the way up the side of the golf course. And their landscaping is indicated on the plan. We agree that 1 street tree and 1 additional tree should be provided somewhere else within the subdivision. As you know, these lots are 70 foot in width, and with the utilities and the driveways, it was agreed upon that we put 1 tree on each lot, and the code is 2 trees per lot. The other trees, we are gonna, what I'd like to do in section 2 is put them along the golf course. Because there's areas along the golf course. If I can flip. So the golf course lots are along the left-hand side. And they are lots, let's see, I wrote it down here. 205 through 212. I think are the ones that, what we'd like to do is take, because obviously we've got 31 lots, so we got 31 trees to place someplace. They're going to be evergreens, blue spruce or some type of conifer. So what we'd like to do is include those along the entire length here. Right down at the end here, closer to the very bottom, that's an existing treat area. But along this whole side here, the west side, from 05 up to 12. What looking at how many trees we have, I'd like to put 3 trees per lot and 70-foot wide lots. It'll give them a nice buffer. In this particular area, I walked the site years ago in the beginning, And I think this particular part didn't have that many trees to start with. On the site, there was quite a few trees along the perimeter. And this area was actually low brush shrub type vegetation. So it really wasn't anything substantial. And some of the trees that are there that we've saved were just top growth now. You know, they've gotten so tall, they're really not decorative or usable for buffer type. They're not serving the purpose. So Bernie's going to actually clean up his property line in phase one that needs to have additional vegetation. We're going to take care of that ourselves. But this, with the condition 2 trees per lot, I'd like to put all those trees along these lots, which would be 3 trees per lot, except number 5, 205. That would be 5 trees on that area because it's larger. The larger lot here. Have 5 trees there. So it'll create a nice buffer because we're also going to have the town with that 15-foot strip of land. They're actually building a walkway. So it's going to be a pedestrian public walkway along the back, along the edge of the golf course between us and them. So I'm thinking a nice buffer zone would be to put the pine trees there and, you know, create that buffer.
Well, can you just point to where that's gonna be in relation to the houses and then you mentioned the trees? Where's that walkway gonna go on that map?
Oh, the walkway itself?
Yeah, the walkway in phase one is coming up, phase one is down here, this is 2. And then down there, the walkway.
Yep, that's what I thought.
It shows on the overall map.
Yep.
So this is the overall map. North would be up. So phase one is here, and this walkway actually, the town is already, that is under construction all the way from here. This is being built. As we see, under construction right now. So phase 2 is the portion here where you're second in off your station road. So we'll have 2 curb cuts. This will be a new curb cut with DOT. That will come in, but the trees will continue on. The walkway will continue on up to here in this phase. And this will be phase 4, and then 5 actually takes it and goes all the way down to the Tennessee River. This area right here. I know I remember walking it, there's not a whole lot of buffer zone, if you will. So just an opportunity to make a nice buffer. Right.
So along the west side.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, specifically lots 205 through 212. We got 31 trees to place someplace. So that seemed like a good place to me, but if you have another idea. That's pretty much the comments that I wanted to discuss in phase 2. And phase 3 is pretty much Chris's comments, obviously reiterated the same in the beginning about the planning board and the decision letter. And then we get into a street light in phase 3. Extra street light at Countess. I'm not sure whether there's is there a Cobra
No,
head?
there's not. We
There-
need something there.
right.
There's one of the Riverton, one of those dull, old lights that's there, but it's still
Right.
hard to see that corner when you drive up. So we need something
Okay.
at that intersection.
Yeah, I saw that comment. I mentioned it to Chris and I says I wasn't sure. We didn't have it on the plan. So we do have streetlights at every intersection, every 250 feet throughout the whole project, sidewalks on both sides. But yes, we can definitely put a streetlight in at that intersection. Maybe it'd be best if I talk to RG&E and see if they want to do one of those larger. Do you want a decorative pole lamp like you have on inside the subdivision, or do you want something that would be? You know,
I think I prefer one of the overhanging lights. It's much brighter that way.
I think so.
You know, decorative is nice, but we need
light up
light
the whole
on there. Yeah,
intersection, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, the decorative ones do a nice kind of residential street kind of lighting.
right.
But if you're talking that at the
For safety and
state
things,
roads.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll get with DOT or RG&E. And
Okay.
the state will be fine putting up I
Good.
think there's a pole there anyway, so if not, we'll have to deal with them and figure out what's going on. So,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, all right, we'll definitely check on that.
And then are you comfortable with Chris's comment number 15 about the crosswalk
Yes.
At Downsfield Garden Inn. Yep, okay.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and we'll put the ADA detectors. We'll show that as well on the sidewalk itself versus the striping on the pavement as a designated striped sidewalk crossing.
Great.
And like I mentioned, the ADA detectors, which would be on the sidewalks themselves.
Right.
And regarding the trees in phase 3, we've got 26 more trees to place somewhere. So I looked at that. Three of this area right here, so this is Erie Station Road that comes up, our existing entrance here, our new entrance, and then phase 3 starts right at that entrance.
We might need you on mic.
Yeah, he's got to have a microphone.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Feel free to grab one of the hand
grab
mics if you like.
just hold the on button until you see the green light.
Okay. The on button
It's got a little power symbol.
says select, no. Oop. Is that select?
Fortunately, the on button says mute.
That's what I figured. There's a, you know.
That's
Better,
good.
better?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks,
All right,
Walt.
sorry about that. Yeah, usually the mic, the pedestal, or the right next to the microphone. Yeah, so phase 3 actually starts just north of the intersection, first intersection and 2. So it's these 26 lots right through here. So obviously the golf course is on this side. So we do have an area, which I think Richard has already spoken to. The communication company has a couple commercial pieces right here. There's
Yes,
communication-
this,
what is it, a tower or something?
Well, no, he's a phone company or, I don't, to be honest, I'm not sure what he does, but it's communication.
yeah, there's a private piece of property up there. The guy bought it and he was using it as like a storage area for boats and stuff, but it never developed. I think he still owns it, but there's not much back there. And then you get into the thruway rest area, the travel plaza. They've got some land and then picks up just past that a little bit. I don't see it on your diagram there, but it's just off to the north of that section. Yeah. Yeah, right up in there.
So with that in mind, and Richard mentioned that to me, that I guess the guy approached you and said, what about buffering it?
Yeah, he wanted,
So he mentioned it, right?
yeah, he wanted to plant some trees or arborvitae's along our property border, but he doesn't have much room between his driveway. We thought we might add to it and create a buffer for our property.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, the surveyor picked up his driveway. You can, if you see it on the map, it's like right on the property line.
Yep.
The driveway. So we do have the 30-foot rear setback. So we have that 30-feet area. What I would suggest is that we put, again, we go with 3 trees per lot all the way up through here and try to buffer this whole line, not only from Erie Station Road, but from the communication company as well. So 26 trees, we could place them there. We might have a couple extra if we do put them back on the golf course side.
Sounds good.
Well, if you have any other specific questions.
Yeah, no, thank you for going over everything. Let's, I'll run it by the board first and then we'll discuss the variance for the setback there. Chair will recognize Mr. Franek. We'll start with you at your end this time.
We're just discussing the plan in general or just the setback?
Pardon me?
Were we just discussing the
Going to
setback?
talk about the applications right
Oh,
now.
okay,
Yep.
great. So I noticed in the Monroe County planning comments that this is a potentially archaeological sensitive area.
Yes.
Just wondering if you had spoken with the historical committee? Okay,
If you'd like, I've only brought one because this was back in 2021.
okay,
We did submit it to SHPO, which is State Historical Preservation Society. and we got a
Okay.
letter here. If you'd like, there's
Fantastic.
one.
nope, that's fine. All right, great.
do say no in that.
Okay, fantastic. And I was just wondering if you had spoken with our historical sites committee at all, as well, or just, with SHPO?
we went to the Conservation Board a couple weeks ago
Conservation.
regarding the trees and
Mhm.
such. And so that's what they mentioned about the 2 trees per lot, which we knew about. But at that time, we didn't know exactly where we were going to put them. And I'm thinking along the golf course would be a good place to place them. So
Okay, great. And they mention also that this is on the National Wetland Inventory and that they're looking for a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers.
they're referring to actually because if you that area, because we do have wetland areas that are on the golf course, because there's a floodplain on the golf course. Generally, that's a good place to put a golf course. You know, if it floods, you don't go. So that there's areas through here which don't impact the project, but up through here, that's what they were referring to. And we got a finger of land that goes all the way down through. And this is actually wetland area up here. It's floodplain, wetland area.
Okay,
So we are not doing any work in this area. We got our pond outside that. So we did that in the preliminary overall design as well. But they always bring that up every time.
okay, great. And you are looking to add the second drive off of Erie Station Road. Was that part of the original plans that were submitted under the special use permit?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yep, the whole design that you see was what was presented and special use permit was approved by the town board, the existing layout. Then we came into planning board for preliminary approval. And then subsequent to that was final for phase 1.
okay, great. I've got no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franick. Chair will recognize Mrs. Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I believe some time ago, a traffic study was done. Can you share the results of that?
Yep, that was back at the town board level. I didn't bring it with me. But it was submitted to the town. It was reviewed by the town's consulting traffic engineer as well as New York State DOT and Monroe County DOT. Subsequent to that, they ended up with the corridor fee and all that, but there was no need for any turn lanes on this project. So they did approve it. And obviously we've got our curb cut from New York State DOT based on that. And we're going to get the second curb cut from DOT for that. So.
Thank you. I have nothing additional, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Chair will recognize Mr. Liss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Said the sales are going pretty well on the phase 1.
Yes,
What's
surprising.
the average, what are we talking about with the sales price? What are these homes going for? Just
That might
out of
hurt.
curiosity.
The average sale price has probably been at about 500,000. If you take, there's some lower, then there's obviously some higher. So high 4s, close to 5. And we are not quite sold out. I think we have 1 lot or 2 lots left in phase 1.
All right. What elementary school feeds into these? You know, I'm just curious about
To
it.
be honest, I don't. I'd have to ask my sales manager for that.
But it's mostly families coming in.
Yeah,
Phase 1 so far.
yes, I would say that 95% are families.
Well, good. I look forward, we do need the housing, so and I look forward to seeing the,
Yeah, there's been great demand. That's why we're anxious to move forward with sections.
thank you
2 and
for all
3.
your work and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Liss. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
Millie, sorry to put you on the spot. Do you recall why you voted no for the special use on this? Was it archaeological or?
It was concerned for the wetlands.
Okay. I just want to make sure there wasn't something we were missing on other stuff.
Yep, and there were still concerns about the traffic. So even though it did clear the traffic study,
Perfect.
there's ongoing concerns. I
Okay,
think.
good to know. Thank you. And I like the 1 tree in front. I like the others used for a buffer as much as I'm gonna have probably a lot of golf balls in their backyards under those trees.
The supervisor mentioned that too.
Great minds think alike, right? I know we're gonna talk about the buffer later, but I'm good with the 30-foot buffer instead of 50. I have a question for Mr. Young. If we do this, we have to make this conditional on the applicant adhering to all the items on the resolution. Is that correct?
Yeah, my suggestion for, as per my written comments, with that you condition your approval on addressing the town, the engineer, the town director of engineering and planning's comments, the fire marshal's comments, and adhering with the conditions of the special use permit.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill. Want to come back to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
I have a couple, I guess, comments. One of them is also off of Mr. Young's comment based off the grading, and I think that was in lots 208 to 212, same area. Chris, one of your comments, question number 3 for phase 2.
That was in the grading section, Mr. Eckert?
Drainage and grading. Yes, sir. Key 3.
Oh, number 3, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, so during the tree clearing process, the existing vegetation along Riverton Golf Course was preserved to provide a buffer between the homes and the golf course, and it appears that from the grading plan that a good portion of these trees are now being removed. This should be discussed with the planning board at the meeting.
Okay.
And Walt and I did talk about this earlier. And I think for this particular section, Walt, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the trees that were removed were scrub brush and things of that nature.
Yes.
And at the time, I think when you were doing the grading, the clearing rather, we were keeping, I think, 15 to 30 feet at least. But at that time, we didn't know that we were going to trade that 15-foot strip of land.
Right, because it was like probably what, 4 years ago, we got the grading permit?
Yeah, at least 4 years ago.
Yeah, we got a grading permit and we left, like Chris mentioned, we left a perimeter trees around the entire site. I think it was, 20 or 20, 30 feet, maybe 20 feet.
Right. And I think, as part of this project with the extra tree, that would certainly be a good place to put that, to supplement some of those open spaces that may still be there, that are in that 15-foot strip.
So that's on the western portion, same area, 208 to 212.
Correct.
Okay. So, but looking at the grading plan, that's a huge steep drop off.
Yep. And I think in one of our comments, we did discuss possibly making those either partial walkouts or walkouts to make the backyards more usable.
Yeah, I'm also concerned about now a lot of additional water going towards the golf course, which again is a floodplain, and underwater, we're going to send a lot more water from these backyards to that direction.
I think the intent was always the water was going to go that way.
It was in the calculations. Obviously, that's the backyard drainage. The front yards will all go to the storm system into the pond. Those backyards will just sheet drain off to that area, but as you well know, we're working on the trail design right now, so we're gonna actually have property line swales down through there. So
So we'll be able to get some water. I mean, I think there's a pond to the south. I'm not 100%.
Yep.
I don't, but at north is quite a ways. I don't know if you can get there.
the grade-
Otherwise, it's going to cross the fairway to get to the pond on the other side there.
The grade break goes, to the north end. We've
Right.
got-
It's pretty real, well, from what I can see, what little existing topo is on
Right.
that drawing, very flat, obviously off to the west side there.
Right. Yeah, so those contours you see, even though they're lined up nice and symmetrical, they're actually 1-on-4. That means, well, this is 11.5. So there's 1 foot. It's 4
Yeah,
feet.
1-on-4 is mowable.
1-on-4 is, we don't go any steeper than 1-on-4.
Right.
So it's actually a 1-on-4 slope. So you might say, oh, there's a lot of contours there, which there are.
Yeah, there's
know,
8
but-
feet of contours, right?
There's eight contours, right? But each one is 1 foot vertical to 4 foot horizontal. So the slope is like that.
Okay, well, so yeah, if they can be partial walkouts or something, then you'll catch a lot of grade there and not.
Yeah.
I am, we had a similar issue with additional drainage going in section 1 going towards the park
Right.
that we had to fix. I was trying to not make sure we're recreating that again.
Yeah. Well, I did discuss it with Chris earlier, and then I spoke with Richard. I was thinking Anthony, the real estate manager for the sales. And I asked him specifically today, I said, what do you think about those 7 lots along there being walkouts? Because you can't do one walkout and one non-walkout. You can't, alternate them. If you're gonna do walkouts, you need to have a nice symmetrical, group of houses that are to be sold as walkouts or partial walkouts. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people now they use superior walls for their foundations. They don't use blocks and cement. They actually have them manufactured. And the superior walls have this nice texture and they're solid walls they bring in on a truck from a factory and they set them in place and they do have escape windows and they also do have, what do you call those other windows you have? These egress windows.
Mhm.
So they do that. In fact, a few of them that's in phase one is like that. So we do have that and we talked about in phase one because some of those areas were steep as well. And we say, geez, could we make these walkouts? And at first they weren't sure about would the public be interested in walkouts, but apparently I would think they would, but apparently they are. So
Yes, there would be a good demand for walkouts. People like them. They could use their basements and finish them off and it becomes additional living area.
Right, and that's, I'm okay with the slope. I guess what I'm really just trying to understand too, again, is that we're not creating another drainage impact to the park that's already underwater by so much more water going there quicker with all these lots shedding off fast to that side.
Right.
And we have a low point, what again looks like right in the middle there, that's going to cross this fairway to try to get over to a pond on the other side of, what's this, 6?
somewhere around 6 and 7. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
You can see
we
the
need that.
drainage. Yeah, the contours are right there.
I don't know how I don't know how it gets addressed. You don't have a lot of room there to go either north or south with that swale, especially after it's supposed to, well, you're gonna have to do something too, because
Yeah.
the trail that's going in
Trail's
is gonna
gonna
be
be there.
elevated.
I think
So
I'll
that's
be
gonna
involved.
crap a lot of water.
I think we're gonna get involved when we get to that phase 2 trail part. Kind of like what we're doing with phase
Well,
1.
yeah, we're creating an issue.
Yeah.
The plans are showing an issue that I'm not sure that there's a fix for right now. So that's what my just addressed concern is.
Yeah, we can put, like I mentioned, I want to have a rear yard drainage swale anyways for the residents. So they don't have puddles in their backyard, and then we'll have to do cross culverts like we talked earlier in phase 1. So
Okay.
we can do that with the trail. Obviously, the trail might have to be elevated a little bit so we can get a cross culvert going underneath it to drain it to that existing swale that's there already. And it goes down, you can't see it on this map, but there is a pond in
Right.
this area.
Yeah, so getting 5, 6, 7 is possible. Again, I don't know where, again, it's a low point up there by 8 or something. 10 actually.
It starts grading the other way.
Okay.
There's a grade break. So,
So I don't know how you're gonna get a swale in with that steepness unless you do partial walkouts or something along those lines and we're creating an impact
yeah,
in the park that we don't want to create.
if they're good with walkouts, I'll make them walk.
Yeah,
out.
but again, that's the problem. One is, one isn't, one is, one isn't, you know, you
Yeah,
gotta,
well, no, they'd have to all be sold that way. Everyone, you can't do one and then not and
Why not?
alternate. Why not?
Yeah.
It's too hard to change the grades
Yeah.
between lots.
you're gonna
from one
crack
lot to the
water
next.
between them.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to have an abrupt change between the lots
So,
with a walkout and then a non-walkout.
yeah, so I'd like to see that addressed going forward.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make sure that that gets addressed on the plans as they progress. I saw a comment from the fire marshal on the road width, but 22's comment, especially with the 2.5-foot gutter.
Yeah, and I believe, Craig, if you include the gutter, hopefully that'll satisfy his comments,
Well,
because every
Police
town
Park,
road
Forest
is
View, everything else has been 2.11s, right? We haven't,
correct.
yeah, okay,
Right, because we got 2.5 foot wide gutters besides the 22 foot of pavement.
right.
We are at
Light,
27 basically, yeah.
I want to make sure we also communicate, light spacing with our lights and how they now, and being that these are town of Henrietta lights and our LEDs that are going in. So we want to make sure we have the correct spacing of the lights.
All right, I'll talk over with our lighting specialist.
Road,
That's right.
road and well, kind of maximum pipe slope, this is back to 2. You got a lot of grade change here, or no, I'm sorry, 3, excuse me. This is in 3, we got a really big hill we're trying to come up.
Yeah, the natural grading goes up. Yeah, we ended up lowering that.
Are we meeting 10 state standards for maximum pipe slope?
Yes,
Okay, so it doesn't exceed
the velocities. No.
Doesn't exceed the velocities on any of that. Okay,
Right.
because it, again, it may be out of context. It looks incredibly steep through that
Right.
section.
It does. Well, if you're looking at the profiles, obviously, because it's 5 and 50. So
What's the road through there? 7 or 8%?
I think we lowered it to 7. Yeah.
I think it's 7 as well.
Okay. Well, that's more of a highway superintendent comment, you know, as far as plowing it, getting up and down the road. I don't know what High Stone is. It's the steepest side of the road that I know of. And
I
I know
wanna
we have
say that's
problems
around-
with storm drainage because of the velocities.
Yeah, but again, I think that was corrugated metal pipe.
Yeah, it's supposed to be coated, but I think it,
I think it wore off over
Yeah.
the years and,
This is
but I think that's
PVC.
about 8 or 9%, just to give you
8 or
an
9.
idea.
Yeah, that's pretty darn steep. So we can make that work. So I guess 7 will work just fine. That, again, it's a highway superintendent comment, but it looked super steep, so I made some notes to comment on it, or at least communicate what I thought I saw.
Yeah, well, the road is there, but the inlets are down further, so the storm pipe, I think is less than.
Not so steep through that
Right.
section. Yeah, through High Stone, it carried it all the way down through.
Follow the slope of the road. Yeah.
Yeah, and put,
Yeah, we had, our inlets were down further. Obviously, you can drain 300 feet in the gutter.
Yeah.
So our gutters are down further, so our storm system isn't like this, our storm system's like this.
yeah, so sanitary velocity, I was making sure of storm velocity. And again, Chris is correct. It was a corrugated, it's supposed to be a coated corrugated metal, but it eroded, created a piping. We got a sinkhole 8, 9 feet deep and into the driveways.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a fun fix.
Call the highway department.
Yeah. So those are the end of my comments that I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Sure we'll recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It looks like I had one question that was not addressed. It has to do with the crosswalks. Did we address the crosswalk at Downsfield and Erie Station? We did, forgive me.
Yeah,
Sorry
we'll
about
put-
that.
Yeah, we'll put painted stripes crosswalk and the ADA
I don't
detector.
know where I was when we talked about that.
You're taking notes.
I missed that note. Thank you, and that's all I had. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I think there was a comment, I believe, also from the fire marshal about the hydrant spacing. To check that. Chris, is that correct? There was,
It might have been minor. I think it was
that-
maybe mine for
was that
him.
yours?
to-
I'm sorry.
Well, it's probably both of ours, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure that, and I'm trying to remember, the spacing is 500 feet.
500.
So, yeah, we'll
Maximum.
double check it as well, but I think it met those requirements, but just double check Wall if you don't mind.
Yep, yeah, yeah, and he mentioned about the 26-foot width, which is, I think it's a state requirement now for, pavement. But pavement is not just the pavement, it's also the gutter. It's a hard surface that the fire trucks can actually access it. In Webster, we did a job in Webster and they only got 20 foot of road asphalt. So we came up a little short. So each fire hydrant, I had to put additional concrete on the outside of the gutter to give them the required width at that location, just on one side where the fire hydrant was. I think I ran it like 20 feet either side of the fire hydrant in case I don't know if they get that close to the fire hydrants anyways, but we adhered to the 26 feet.
Okay, and then I've just got one other comment regarding the safety of that area. I know we did the traffic study and everything came out the way it was supposed to, but I still am very nervous, and I was nervous about this from the very beginning of this project, how the cars come screaming down from Scottsville and right around those intersections, and you're trying to turn off from County. Your head is on a swivel there because you can look that way and see nothing, look that way and see something, turn around, there's something coming again. I want to make sure you've got a crosswalk going in there. Can we get some safety signs that go up? And I meant to double check myself and see what may be up there at this point, and I forgot. But just maybe pedestrian crossing ahead or slow down or children in there, something like that, because, and I'm not even sure that they would work, but just to let those drivers know that, guess what, there's going to be a couple more access points here. And I'd hate for there to be a major accident to get that message out.
Great, okay. Now I'll work with Chris and see if we can put up some signage. We can
Yeah, and I don't know if
obviously
you have
buy
to-
the signage.
if the state has to be involved, and I don't want to make a big production out of it, but I really think it's important there because I am so fearful living there that I see how these people fly out and, you know, they'll come up and they'll get right on your butt as you're just pulling out to get going, or they'll zip around you. Or my wife actually had somebody, she was slowing down on Erie Station to turn left into Countess, and somebody came up behind her and drove by her on her left side. So there's all kinds of idiots out there, but I'm nervous. And so whatever we can do to make that stretch of Erie Station safer, I'm all for. Let's address the the reduction of the planned buffer. Mr. Borkowski, I know you're okay with that. Mr. Young, can I poll the board and get something in the record for that, or must it be a motion that the board has voted on the buffer reduction?
I would just make a motion to reduce the buffer.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, very good. Well, the chair will make a motion to reduce the transitional buffer from 50 feet to 30 feet.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Mrs. Burley, if you got this in your notes?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We have a formal reduction in the buffer. Okay, so I know Walt spoke about both of these kind of in tandem, but we have them both on here as separate applications. So we will move to on application number PB 332.2. That is Fairways at Riverton, Section 2. For final subdivision approval of a 31 lot residential subdivision on 40.8 acres located on Erie Station Road, excuse me, in a planned unit development.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve application PB 332.2. And I'll list the conditions, but Mrs. Burrell, I'll get you these because I wrote them down. Conditional on applicant addressing all staff comments and adhering to all other conditions on the special use permit. And I did write down that you also want a street light across from Countess. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
And you agreed that you could do that?
Yes.
Okay. Did I get everything down?
One thing you could say just as a catch-all is, as an additional condition, is to implement the changes as offered at the planning board meeting. For example, including but not limited to regarding drainage. Agreed, or?
Yes.
I don't have that part written down, Patty, but I'll give you the other stuff.
Yep. So
You want me to say that again?
Yes.
So the conditions Mr. Brokowski mentioned were addressing the comments of the town engineer, addressing the comments of town fire marshal.
Mhm.
Well, he said town staff.
I said all
Staff,
staff
He said
comment.
town
Yep.
staff, so including, which would include the engineer and fire marshal, addressing the conditions or satisfying the conditions of the special use permit,
Correct.
you got that.
and then implementing the changes offered today during the planning board meeting, including but not limited to relative to drainage
And street light.
and streetlight. And just to be clear, are you committing to the walkouts or are you just exploring the walkouts? I wasn't sure.
We're going to commit to it.
So does the board want to have that as? I mean, then it's included in our condition about what they're offering.
So walkouts on the west side property?
Yeah, I wasn't sure
Uh,
what side it was on.
Or should we list the numbers?
Lord have mercy.
It was one of the engineering comments, if that helps as well, which they have to address.
Okay, cool. So it's already built into the comments.
Built in. Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I
so
think the
that,
comments, the engineering comments said discuss it. But now you're committing to the walkout.
I'm
So it's on the record and
Yep.
they're agreeing to it.
Okay. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Mr. List, thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you. We'll move right into application number PB 332.3. Fairways at Riverton, Section 3, and this is for final subdivision approval of a 26 lot residential subdivision on 40.8 acres located on Erie Station Road in a planned unit development.
Motion to approve application PB 332.3 with the exact same conditions as .2.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. May I get a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
all right, thank you very much. Hopefully the sales go as well in 2 and 3.
We'll see you for sections 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
I'll be seeing your fam tomorrow night at the Canisius game. Yep.
Have any effect?
Yep. Last week. Yep.
All right.
We
Rolling.
don't have anybody there anymore. We were, oh, that's right.
Over here, it's got the traffic.
I ran, Cornell's one of my customers. I ran into her sitting there studying one day when I was walking through one of the dining
pretty
rooms. I
interesting.
took a selfie and sent it to Ann.
Well, only if they.
Oh my God, that whole, all those girls are.
Yeah.
Did we do a motion to adjourn?
We have not.
Kids.
Motion to adjourn 7:25.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. 7:25, motion to adjourn. And then you had a comment on Starbucks
Yes.
for me or for everybody?
Who got the motion?
Mr. Borkowski. He was busy tonight. We got to give him some overtime.
All of the other different ones that.
Thank you.
And when they did the traffic study, we saw.
You do?
Oh,
it's just-
The traffic was.
That's one of the other ones.
Oh, I thought there was, yes, I believe. I wasn't paying attention.
Chairman,
Is there a follow-up?
is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Mr. Borkowski, 7:25.
25. Okay, so we're adjourned.
We're adjourned.